here, and I'm back with another video for Ophelia Talks. And in this video we're going to make a granny square. Now, it's not like I haven't made a granny square before. In this video I want to make an uninterrupted granny square, and yes, I have done that before as well. But what I have not done is made one in one colour. So a couple of years ago even I did a granny square in different colours. So that's this one here, and then we turned it into a tissue box holder. And the reason why I like changing colours, even as a beginner, when you are learning to crochet, when you are learning to make a granny square, I believe it is important you change colour for every round, because that way you see which is which. You see which stitches belong to which round, and you see what to do next with those different colours. But on that video, somebody said, but how do you do it with one colour? So here we are. Okay, so even though you might think that it is easier to make a granny square with one colour, in a way it's not, because it might make it more difficult for you to see where you should be putting your stitches. So when you are learning to crochet, when you are learning to make a granny square, do consider making a granny square in different colours so you see the different rounds. Okay, it will be helpful. So once you know what you're doing and you want to make a granny square in one colour, I'm here for you. So let's get started. So we have our DK yarn. I have the matching hook for the yarn. DK is normally prescribed for a 4mm hook. I always use a 3.5 because I like the fabric that I create better when I make it with a 3.5, scissors, and of course a darning needle. So let's get started with our granny square, and I'm going to use a chain 4 for the center. So let's make a slip knot. So I wind the yarn around my fingers twice, then I go to the back, I lift it across to the front, I lift the one that's then at the back also towards the front, and then the one that's at the back, then I lift that up, and now I have a slip knot. You insert your hook, you pull the loop close so it's sitting nicely around your hook like this. Then you're going to chain 4. So you yarn over and you pull through this little piece of yarn through the loop that's already on your hook by pulling your hook backwards, taking the loop with you, twisting it slightly so it goes through the loop, and you bring it up again. So you yarn over and make sure that the shape of your hook is the same shape as your loop, like a teardrop shape but upside down. So you need to just turn this and it will come through like that. 3 and 4. Then you go back to your first chain, you go into it there, you bring over the working yarn, loop it behind the hook, pull it through the stitch and through the loop on your hook. So this is the little circle that we're going to get started with. Now we're going to do 2 chains, 1 and 2. Now these 2 chains are approximately the height of a double crochet, so that's why I am doing these, because from this position you can't get the height otherwise. So this is going to count as my first double crochet. I now have to do another 2 double crochets into that circle. So for a double crochet, you yarn over, you insert into the circle, make sure you find the actual circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So we're going to do that again. Yarn over into that circle, you pull up your working yarn, this is the end, it's just hanging there, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Then we are going to chain 2, 1, 2, and this is the chain that we do for our corner. So now we're going to do another cluster. So 3 double crochets in the same location is called a cluster. So now we're going to do another cluster into the circle. So yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, chain 2, 1 and 2. Then we're going to do more of these clusters. So another one, and we complete our 3 double crochets. There we go. Another 2 chains, and we are going to do our 4th cluster. So in this center, you're going to need to do 4 clusters of 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4 corners. So here as well, we are now going to do 2 chains. There we go. So now looking at the start of our round, you can see those 2 chains that we did. Now I did say they would count as a double crochet, but in a way they don't have the same top on them. So we're going to create that top. We're going to do a slip stitch, and we're going to do it under this V here. So insert your hook under these 2 strands here. So you're skipping these 2 chains, you're going under these 2 strands, you bring back the yarn through that stitch, then you pull it through the loop on your hook. There we go. And as you can see now, that slip stitch sits nicely above that chain 2, and that shows you now this is a proper double crochet because it also has a V at the top of it. And this is normally where I change colors. So if you want to change colors, go to that other video. But if you don't want to change colors, stay here. The easiest way I found over the years of making granny squares is by just doing a couple of slip stitches. So I'm going to go into here, under this V here, and I'm going to do a slip stitch. Then I'm going to go into the chain space here, and I do a slip stitch. And you don't see that when you have, look, you can't tell that I have done that here, okay? And this way is the cleanest way that you can travel to the correct place for you to start the next round. I could have started here, but that would have looked funny. That would not have been correct. So now I am here in the corner chain space and I am ready to do a corner. And I can straight away get started with doing 2 chains instead of my first double crochet, because those 2 chains will count as my double crochet later on. Then I'm going to do 2 double crochets into that chain space for making my first cluster. There we go. 2 chains and another cluster of 3 double crochets into that same chain space. So we are making a corner made up of 3 double crochets, 2 chains and 3 double crochets. There we go. And this round is making all corners. So now I'm going to go to the next chain space, just going over into it. So there's no slip stitching or anything. You just yarn over into this corner chain space and you start doing your 3 double crochets straight away, because we don't need to do the chain 2 because we are already at that height. Chain 2 here in the between the 2 clusters, of course, and then another cluster of 3 double crochets. Voila, look at that. So we have now got 2 corners on our center of our granny square. Now, same thing again, go over to the other corner and you place 3 double crochets, 2 chains and 3 double crochets. Voila. This has now given us 3 corners. And now on to our last corner here, where we will be doing exactly the same thing. So 3 double crochets, 2 chains and 3 double crochets. There we go. So now, as you can see, we have made 4 corners. We're going to close the round. Same thing as before. We've got these 2 chains, which we're going to skip, go under what I call the first usable V, pull through the yarn, and you pull it through the loop on your hook. There we go. And finishing our round like this, I find is the best way to not create extra stitches, because sometimes you could easily create an extra stitch with your slip stitch and that is confusing. So if you make your slip stitch the top of your chain 2, then that's all incorporated into one, and that now stands for a double crochet. We now do have the situation where you are in the wrong place to start your next round. So if you were to start here, where I am now, then really you've got to sort of almost pull it, and this would be your last double crochet for this cluster. So when you come back here, you would have to add 2, but here, this would look funny because you really are not there, you're here. You're on top of this stitch here. So generally, yes, I don't do that. I do my 2 little slip stitches. Look. Slip stitch here and slip stitch into the chain space. And that brings me very nicely to the corner where I can start with a corner. Okay, so chain 2, 1, 2, another 2 double crochets, voila, chain 2, and then into that same chain space for another lot of 3 double crochets. There we go. Okay, you do need to be able to visualize what you are doing. Because you're using one color, it's not so easy. If you're using different colors, of course you know where to go better, in my opinion. Okay, so now we are also going to be making sides. So the first round we make our center, then we make 4 corners. This time we are making 4 corners, but also 4 sides. And the side in this round will be made up of 1 cluster. And that cluster is going to go in between these 2 clusters here, so around here. So you yarn over, insert in between the clusters, pull up your working yarn, and you are going to be making your 3 double crochets positioned in between those 2 clusters. There we go. And now here is the time for yet another corner of 3 double crochets, 2 chains and 3 double crochets. Et voila, we've done 2 corners and 1 side. And now we are going to go and do another side, placing those 3 double crochets in between the 2 clusters, and that way we will travel along to the next corner. There we go, and we are doing our corner. 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and 3 double crochets. Voila. So really you're doing those clusters in between, which will then give you the possibility to get to the next corner. So 3 double crochets in between those 2 clusters there. Voila. And now we are ready again for a corner. So into the next corner chain space you place 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and another 3 double crochets into that same chain space. And now, before we can close our round, we need to do another cluster. There we go. And same thing here again. We've got these 2 chains to skip. This is the first usable V. Go under it, bring back your yarn and pull it through the loop on your hook. And there we go. So this is how far we are already. We have done 3 rounds and now we are ready to continue our 4th round. And from here on out, really it is the same. So we're going to be doing our 2 slip stitches. You're going to be doing your 2 chains to get the height. Then you add 2 double crochets to that. 1, 2 chains, and then you add another cluster because of course we're making a corner here. Voila, so that's your corner done. Now here we won't be able to just put 1 cluster because that will not take us to the next corner. You will see that you have now this location between the clusters and this location between the clusters. So every time you do a round, you will be doing more and more clusters between the corners to get you to the next corner. And of course that's the secret with the granny square. This is how it grows. This is how you can actually, if you can make this, you can make a blanket. You don't even need to cut off the yarn and make lots of granny squares. You can just keep going on and on and on until your rows are so long that you can't see the corner at the end. Okay, and that way you will have made a, what do they call it, an infinity granny square blanket or something like that, you know, where you just don't stop and you keep on making it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And of course, yes, use those little slip stitches to get to the correct position and you will be having lots of crochet fun. Doing your crochet stitches, doing your clusters between the clusters. Each time you reach a corner, you do a corner because you need to turn. And I also try to, like now, I physically turn my square and I find that helps me as well with making sure that of course I know what I'm doing. And there we go. Voila, look at that. Okay, so I've got one more corner to go and then also one more side. So let's get going. Three double crochets, 2 chains, turn, and then 3 double crochets in that same chain space. Voila. And then here we are doing our clusters, and in this round we're doing 2 clusters on the side. In the next round you will be doing 3 clusters. In the round after that 4, then 5, then 6, and so on. There we go. So we have finished the round. Now let's close the round. 2 chains to skip. This is the first V that we can go under. Bring back your working yarn, pull it through the loop on your hook. There we go. So this is a granny square made in one color, and I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you will have learned something about how to keep it simple, really just to advance with a couple of slip stitches to the next location to get started again on the next round. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you have been able to crochet along with me. I hope also that you would consider subscribing to my channel, leave me a comment and give me a like if you liked this video. I try to make videos for everyone to show you that you can make things in crochet, large or small, and that you can enjoy doing it at the same time. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!